The shortest verse in the Bible is John 11:35. Jesus wept. For such a little verse, it says so much. And that's what I want to talk about this week on my Hello, my name is Mike Gray, and welcome to another 5-minute message. So why did Jesus weep? I think when you look in context, the reason becomes clear, and that's what I want to look at this week. So first of all, let's give you a little background of what's going on. If you look at John chapter 11, verse 1, in verse 1, it says, Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. In verse 3, it says, So her sister sent to him, Jesus, saying, Lord, whom you love is ill. So Lazarus is sick, and Mary sends a message to Jesus to come because he's ill, hoping that he would come and heal him. But an interesting thing happens. Jesus doesn't jump up and go see Lazarus and heal him. It says in verse 6 that so when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. And then after 2 days, in verse 7, it says, he said to his disciples, Let's go to Judea again. But when Jesus heard it, he said, The illness is not to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. In other words, there was something that was going to happen, amazing, that the people would be able to see. In verse 11, he also says, after saying these things, he said to them, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. So why this is important is because we now know that Jesus knows Lazarus is dead, and he waited 2 days. And he did this for a reason, so that he might be glorified. Now Jesus and his disciples pack up and head to see Lazarus. And in verse 17 it says, Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Something disturbing happened when he got there. Verse 20 says, So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him. But Mary remained seated in the house. Mary wouldn't go. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. And Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Here she blames Jesus for her brother's death. If you had been here, he wouldn't have died. And remember, he waited 2 days to make sure he was dead. But then he tells her, Your brother is going to rise. But Mary didn't understand that. She didn't get it. Verse 24 says, Mary said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection day. She didn't understand what he was trying to tell her. And look at verse 39. Right before they're ready to raise Lazarus, Jesus says, Take away the stone. And Martha, the sister of the dead man, said, Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days. Don't roll away the stone. He's going to stink. She still didn't understand what Jesus was wanting to show them. Now, after a while, Mary finally came to see Jesus and brought a bunch of the mourners with her. And in verse 32 it says, Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Once again, my brother is dead. Where were you? Why weren't you here? Because you weren't here, my brother is dead. And in the very next verse, it gives us an understanding why Jesus wept. Verse 33, it says, When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping who came with her, he groaned in his spirit and was troubled. What does that mean, that he groaned in his spirit? Well, when I looked up the word, and the word is, and I'm going to butcher this and I apologize, embryomai, which means to sigh with chagrin. He was frustrated. And inside he said, Man, why don't they get this? I'm about to show them something amazing. Why aren't they seeing this? Why aren't they excited about this? And he said in verse 34, where have you laid him? And they said unto him, Lord, come and see. And then Jesus wept. Why did Jesus weep? Because they lacked faith in all that they had seen Jesus do, in all that they had seen Jesus say, of all the healings that he had done, raising those from the dead, the young girl that he brought back from the dead, and they still lacked faith. And he wept. And that led me to the question that I have on the title for this lesson. Does Jesus weep for me? When I fail to trust him, when I decide I want to take on my troubles and trials by myself and not give them to God, does he weep for me? Because I show lack of faith in him. When I fail to obey his word, to follow his directions, to have a blessed life, does Jesus weep for me? In Luke chapter 19, verses 41 through 44, it says, and when he drew near and saw the city, talking about Jerusalem, he wept over it, saying, would that you, even you, had known on this day the things that make for peace. But now they are hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will set up a barricade around you and surround you and hem you in on every side, and tear down to the ground you and your children within you. And they will not leave one stone upon another, because you did not know the time of your visitation. We know in Matthew 24, he warned them explicitly of this coming doom, of what to look for and when to run, but they didn't listen. When we fail to heed God's warning for our lives, and he sees our lives headed for disaster, does he weep for us as well? That's what I'd like you to think about this week. With our behavior, are we causing our Savior to weep for us? Let's strive to bring him joy and the glory that he deserves through our lives in everything that we do. Thank you for watching.